Derek, hello. What are we doing here? What is my insurance good for? I haven't had a claim in years. I keep paying the invoice every time it comes my way. I don't think anything's going to go wrong at my home, right? I'm a safe driver. I take reasonably decent care of my home. Why do I keep paying insurance premiums? What is my insurance good for anyway, right? Those are legitimate questions. And that's fair because most people are not going to have an enormous insurance claim. Yeah, they'll have a couple knick-knack things here and there over their lifetime, but uh, we're paying for insurance for many years, constantly wondering if we're ever really going to need it, right? So to answer that question, we're going to take a look at 5 real claims that occurred right here in our office in the past year, right? These are claims that are happening in West Michigan for clients that didn't think they'd ever need their insurance either, right? But when that claim happened or something went wrong, what's the coverage that was on the table and how did that help keep them moving forward and protect them from being out of pocket for, God forbid, a lawsuit or repairs to their home or something of that manner.
Sounds good.
So here we go. Let's take a quick look at some real life claims here in West Michigan.
And this is in West Michigan, or this is just within our small little family-owned agency in West Michigan?
This is in West Michigan for clients of our small family owned insurance agency in West Michigan, right?
So when you look across the entire state, there's probably 10,000 times this number of large loss claims, correct?
Of course,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Yep,
So just
yep.
across our small book of business, these are some of those larger claims that we'll discuss.
Recent claims, absolutely.
Got it.
So here we
Okay.
go. Okay, this is a raw data report from the claim file, right? So forgive the rawness of this data. It is not pretty, but what we're seeing
You're going to
here,
make our clients think we're managing their insurance using a DOS-based program or something. So please forgive Brian and his lack of ability to format this or pull it in any other fashion. But yes, understood, Brian. This is basically one of those old school printer machines that would just spit that out, and you dealt with one font and one color and one size. So here we go.
thank you. So you know it's legitimate. First claim here, Derek. What happened in this home insurance claim? Here we're going to see what type of coverage was applied, what happened in very in nondescript terms, and then of course we've got a reserve, which for anyone who is not an insurance nerd, that is the amount the insurance company still expects to pay out on the claim. And we've got a column of paid, which would be the amount that's already been paid on the claim. So in this first example for this home insurance claim, total claim amount is expected to be at about $110,000. What happened there?
Yeah, in this one, client has a nice house, and on the second level, there was burst plumbing. What, of course, happens when that type of thing occurs is you've got water that saturates, of course, the second floor, runs down the walls into the first floor, continues to run down the walls into the basement, and now you're replacing flooring throughout the entire home, drywall, trim. A lot of times you have a wet frame of the house and you've got to dig that part out and make repairs there. So it was just a simple burst plumbing type of scenario that I think all of us could foresee happening at our homes, regardless of whether they're a year old or 100 years old.
Yeah, for sure. And God forbid it happens when you're out of town for a week or more, right? That's when that gets really ugly. And here's the coverage that you need to see on your home insurance policy when it comes to burst plumbing. It's called your dwelling coverage, which is the coverage for repairing or rebuilding your home for damage caused by burst plumbing or fire or storm. Those type of things are going to be covered here by your dwelling coverage. Claim number 2, umbrella insurance coverage, right? We know what that is. We hit on that all the time. That's lawsuit protection, right? That's protecting your assets and your net worth if something went wrong at your home or on the road and you were sued because of it, right? This is where you go to open the mail and holy smokes, I was served lawsuit papers from something that happened maybe even months or even years ago. And in this example, we had a client just making their way down the road. Oncoming traffic swerved into our client's lane. He had to swerve to avoid the head on collision and unfortunately pushed someone else off the road who was injured as a result. Does that seem fair that there's going to be potentially $500,000 paid out from his umbrella insurance policy? We, of course, would all argue no, but we are not the attorneys. We're not the litigators. We're not involved in that court process. So the umbrella policy is incredibly important if something like that happens, because that's where you're going to find your lawsuit protection if something goes wrong at your home or on the road, and now you're being sued because of injuries or property damage that occurred as a result, right? Claim
I think
number
it's
three.
important to note as well, Brian, that in order for that umbrella policy to apply, the auto insurance policy's underlying liability coverage was exhausted. So they already spent all of that underlying coverage, which I believe was 500 grand, before the umbrella policy kicked in to provide another $500,000 of it. So that's a serious lawsuit, and you certainly want your insurance to come to your rescue if that were to occur.
Absolutely, absolutely. Derek, tell us about this personal injury protection claim here. I believe this is the one where an unfortunate person ran a red light and made impact with our client in his
Yeah,
vehicle.
that's right. And the vehicle ended up rolling a few times. Thank goodness they had their seatbelt on and the airbags went off. It was a luxury vehicle, but nonetheless, when that type of thing occurs, you're likely to sustain some pretty serious injuries. And unfortunately, our client did that. Uh, what happened? Well, their auto insurance paid for their medical expenses plus a lot of the care that they needed once they were discharged from the hospital and trying to just rehabilitate themselves at home. They had a nurse that stayed with them at their home. The insurance company paid to add a handicap ramp to the front of their home, as well as buy them a new vehicle that was going to be handicap accessible with a lift as part of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that personal injury protection coverage that is so popular in our state. It's very unique in Michigan. On most policies, it's on an unlimited basis. That's what you want to see on yours. Look at the personal injury protection allowable expenses. Make sure that you see unlimited, because if you're that unfortunate person that gets T-boned at an intersection, that coverage makes all the difference in the world. Number four, Derek, fire claim here on a home insurance policy. 100,000 expected to still be paid, 63,000 that has already been paid, so about $160,000. This one was a detached garage that burned down, a nice detached garage that burned down, right? Where are we going to find that coverage? Well, for example, that's the other structures coverage that you will see on your home insurance policy, which you'll notice here. If you do any math like Derek does, you'll find that this coverage is automatically provided at 10% of the coverage amount on the home. So in this example, about $70,000. That would be inadequate for this claim example because they've paid out far more than $70,000. But on your policy, look at that coverage amount, understand what is not attached to my home. Is it a detached garage? Is it a pole barn? Is it a carriage house? Is it just a shed out back? But that's where that other structures coverage comes into play. And if it's yours that's burning down, that coverage is going to be very important.
And I think it's important to remember as well, Brian, that a lot of us have stuff that are in our garage or outbuilding or shed that is likely to cause a fire or could potentially cause a fire. We're charging batteries for the electric snowblower or the electric leaf blower. Sometimes we're parking that old Corvette in there in the winter and we're using a trickle charger. We might be storing gasoline. We've got our lawnmower parked in there. All those types of things could, of course, go wrong at some point. And if that thing catches fire at 2 a.m., you're unlikely to wake up and see that in time to do anything before it's going to be a complete loss.
Absolutely. And when you bring up the things that are in the garage or in the pole barn, right, that's where this personal injury, I'm sorry, this personal property coverage comes into play. And this was being paid out not only for the damage and the rebuilding of that detached garage, but the things that were in it were going to be replaced by this personal property coverage. Often this is called contents coverage, contents of the home, which is misleading. It applies to your personal property, whether it's in the home, in the garage, in your vehicle, with you in your luggage as you're traveling across Europe. That's your personal property coverage, and that was being paid out in that claim as well.
All right, let's see if you remember anything from the licensing exam, Brian. My car is parked in my detached garage, and the garage goes up in flames, and my car is entirely destroyed. Does my home insurance and the coverage I've got on that detached garage provide any coverage for the damage to my vehicle?
It does not. If it's
Okay.
involving my vehicle, I am going to my auto insurance policy and I'm looking at my comprehensive coverage. Home insurance does basically nothing for anything with a motor in it other than your lawnmower. So if it's your vehicle that's in the garage, when that place goes up in smoke, It's a auto insurance claim for the damage to the vehicle under your comprehensive coverage shown right here.
Got it.
Derek, claim number 5. This is another umbrella insurance policy here, right? Expected to pay out $250,000 on the umbrella. I believe this was unfortunately pulling out in front of a motorcyclist. Tell us more about how that works out.
Yeah, well, people love to ride motorcycles here in Michigan, and how can you blame them? We've got some amazing roads, and you get those nice long evenings in the summer. And unfortunately, we had an elderly client that was looking into the sun as they were trying to pull right onto the road, and they didn't see an oncoming motorcyclist. And they didn't make contact with the motorcyclist, but the motorcyclist needed to swerve and laid down the bike and then hit a guardrail and sustained injuries. And of course, that motorcyclist was then suing our client for the injuries that they sustained.
Yep. Thank you for that. So the umbrella policy, critically important in helping to settle that lawsuit. And more importantly, or as importantly, take care of that injured person, right? It's not just about protecting your assets. Your liability coverage is helping to right a wrong that happened to a different person, right? If they're hurt, God forbid they're killed. If you're being held liable for that, yeah, you want to protect yourself, of course, but you also want to make that family or that person make it right as best that you can, which your insurance coverage is helping to do.
Mhm.
Thank you for that, Derek. So that's your quick look at some claims that happen right here in West Michigan in our office. We all think, hey, what am I doing with my insurance? I haven't had a claim ever, or at least not as long as I can remember. I keep paying my invoice every year. This is what it's doing for you. None of these clients thought that they would need their insurance this year either. But there it is. And what's in force at the time you need to use it, that's what you have. So it's very important to keep that insurance up to speed. Make sure you're comfortable and confident in what you have before you need it, because by the time you know you need it, it's already going to be too late. What you have is what you have at that point. Derek, thanks for sharing and walking through some of those specifics with us for those families in West Michigan that would like another look at their insurance or a fresh perspective or just a friendly review of their coverage. We at Bohr Insurance Group are here and more than happy to help.